In this video, how is my MG ZS EV faring after 3 months and 1500 miles? Let's find out. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Yeah, it's been over 3 months and over 1500 miles now. I think we've got about 1570 miles on the clock with the 2020 MG ZS EV. And so given we've been in a series of tightening national restrictions and not really able to go many places, that's actually quite a good effort, I think. Just been going backwards and forwards to work really, and it's been holding up fairly well. Been quite surprised I've even managed to do that many miles in the time. I know some people's cars are barely moving at the moment. But how's it holding up? Well, on the whole, I'm fairly happy with it. It's not really doing much that's going to cause me much concern or make me moan about it or anything like that. As I suppose you'd expect from a brand new £20,000 car, it's performing fairly well. We'll touch on some of the little niggles it's got and the things I think you need to consider if you're thinking about buying one of these. But on the whole, I think I'm fairly happy. I think I would still buy one today, knowing what I know now. So that's a good start, I think. One of the issues I have had, and it's a little bit silly really, is one of the clips that hold the strings for the parcel shelf broke off. And I was absolutely gobsmacked by that. I think the parcel shelf had become a bit dislodged with a lot of stuff in the boot, getting ready for Christmas and moving furniture around and all that kind of stuff. And one day I opened the boot and the parcel shelf just kind of fell out, and it turned out one of the clips that hold the strings in place had actually broken in half. And I thought, well, that's crazy. I've had cars, 30 years old, 40 years old. The parcel shelves have been fully functional. It's not been something that I would ever even consider would happen. When that happened, it just turns at 3 months old, and it's just crazy. I can't quite believe that. But obviously we're in the middle of a national lockdown in England, and taking it back to the dealer for a warranty repair for a little clip seemed a bit nonsensical. So I thought I'd have a go at sorting it out myself, and let's have a look at how I got on. So the issue with a parcel shelf is that the little clips that hold the strings in place are really cheap and nasty, and it broke off. The other one's still there, but on this side it's just a clip that goes through a hole, a bit like clips they use for door cards and stuff like that. Pretty poor show really. But to get these from an MG dealer, or at least there's an MG dealer on eBay selling these, and they're about £10 for 2 of them, which is a bit excessive for a crappy little plastic clip that will break again. But thankfully, someone on the Owners Club Facebook group identified there was a seller on eBay selling very similar ones but unbranded. They're not exactly the same. It seems to be made of slightly better quality plastic, it doesn't flex as much when you touch it. And it's a decent enough replacement. The thing that the string will go on is a little bit smaller in diameter. If you see them side by side, if we can, it's slightly smaller, but the string will go on it fine. It should do the job. These were £2.59 for 10. I'll put a link in the description. You can see where I got them from. They've no relation to the seller or anything. I bought these, and if you're having this problem, you can as well. So this just goes into the hole. Takes a bit of force to get it in though. It's gonna need 2 hands, I think. So now we have the clip in place. It took a fair bit of persuasion. Ended up giving it a light tap with a rubber mallet in the end. Not that I'm recommending that would be the preferred way to do it, given the proximity to the rear window. But it's in. It's certainly in there firm. And we can hook the parcel shelf back on. Call that a success, I think. Yep, happy with that. So yeah, I think that's a fairly successful endeavour. 25 pence worth of plastic clip In fact, if your car has this issue and you need a couple of these, my email address is in the description. Shoot me an email. I'll get a couple of these in the post to you, because I hope I'm not going to need 10 of them. I'd hope that they're not going to keep breaking. These new clips do seem a bit more substantial than the MG ones, but I think a problem I shouldn't have had to solve with such a new car, but it's sorted now. Didn't cost very much. Fair enough, I suppose. So let's go on to the more sort of practical things then. So efficiency. I think efficiency is a big talking point with most electric cars. You know, what is the range actually like in the real world? How far will it actually go? And the long-term average on this car over the 1,500 miles is showing to be 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Now that's quite low. That would mean that our range would be in the region of 125, 130 miles rather than the 163 that MG claim it'll do on a charged. But I guess we are in winter now. The temperature's dropped an awful lot. Efficiency goes down when it's cold. I don't think it's too bad, really. I think it's still holding up fairly well. And I'd hope that as we enter spring and towards summer, that efficiency is going to go up again, and we'd see more. And I think it's one thing you definitely need to bear in mind if you're going to rely on the range of an electric vehicle. If you do have use cases that very much require a certain number of miles, and that's close to the maximum, then you're going to have to take into account that the cold weather really does affect range. But that's not just the case for this car. Any electric vehicle has that issue, just in the same way that a petrol or diesel car's efficiency goes down when it's cold outside, because it's having to work harder to produce the same amount of motion for the amount of fuel that you're using. It's not really any different. I think obviously lithium battery chemistry does come into it, and that's a big part of it, right? And the thermal management of the battery comes into it. And I think you do notice that the effect is more drastic because you have a sort of smaller fuel tank, smaller range, smaller battery, whatever to start with. You know, if you've got a car that'll do 400 miles to a tank of fuel, you won't notice if it's doing 350. But if you've got a car that does 160 miles on a charge, you'll notice if it's doing 120. And I think that's definitely more where the issue lies. But for me, it's not really an issue. Keep it charged. You know, I know if I'm going to have to do longer journeys, I can make sure it's charged up overnight. Bearing in mind, I don't have off-street parking, and we have 2 EVs at home, which need to jostle for the space where the charger is. You know, it's not a big deal. We manage it between the two of us, but it's not that both cars sit on a driveway and can both be plugged in whenever I do need to juggle them around, and it's never really a concern. So the reduced winter range doesn't really affect me, but it's definitely something you'd need to consider if you were going to rely on it close to its maximum. One thing you need to be aware of with this car as a whole, the MG ZS, is it's almost like, because people will say like, oh, cheap Chinese cars, and you know, it's pretty crap quality and you get what you pay for and stuff. But actually, on the whole, the drivetrain and stuff is very good. The performance is good. The sort of build quality, the perceived quality, the stuff you touch and feel is actually far better than it should be. Or I thought it was going to be until I checked one of these out for the first time. But I think what you do need to be aware of is some of the niggly software issues that you're going to encounter. So the infotainment system is pretty rubbish, and I can show you that in a second. But you know, it is like buying one of those head units off eBay for $29.99 and sticking it in your Vauxhall Corsa, and it's got a touchscreen interface and it can do this, that, and the next thing, but it looks crap and it's slow and it's a bit meh. In terms of the actual infotainment itself, we've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in here, so I plug my phone in, it does all the hard work, and it actually makes up for a lot of the shortcomings of the infotainment, but it's not actually fantastic. And if it's essential for life for you, if you're really fussed about that kind of thing, then this probably isn't the car for you. If you can cope with it being a little bit buggy and a bit meh, then, you know, like I do, then it's absolutely fine. But I definitely think you need to be aware of that. If that is a deal breaker for you, you probably want to look at something else. So this is the sort of main interface, and like I say, it's just a little bit like something out of a cheap knockoff eBay head unit. You know, I think we've all seen them. The ones I remember the most are the ones that go into like something like an Astra H or a Vectra C, and they match the dashboard and they look like they should be there, but the software that's on them is just absolute rubbish. And I do think this is very, very similar. I think it's from the same kind of school of thought. I mean, the radio interface and stuff. It's just, there's definitely not been any user experience experts here that have come up with this stuff. It works. It's functional. You know, it'll give you DAB radio, it'll give you FM radio, etc. But it's just clunky and not very intuitive at all. And the sat nav, I mean, it's slow, it's clunky. I don't think I've not actually ever used it. I used it in the car that I took for a test drive, and so anytime I've needed sat nav since then, I just use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But I mean, even the time it takes to load, I guess that the fact I came from a nearly new BMW into this, now something looks like there's loads of different voices you can choose and stuff, but whatever. I'm not. Oh, and fuel consumption in miles per gallon, because this is straight out of the ICE MGZS. It's not adapted for the EV at all, I don't think. Whatever. You know, it's okay. It'll do the job. It'll get you to where you want to be, and if you're happy enough with it, then it's all right. But I don't know. It's not for me. I just use CarPlay all the time. I do find it can be very slow at going back to the main screen as well. And what I've also found is sometimes if you operate the heater controls, so the only way of telling how warm it is, despite having an old-fashioned knob here for the heater, the fan and the heater controls, the only way of telling what they're actually set to is when it comes up on the screen here and shows you that, you know, the heater's turned up all the way up or all the way down or whatever. And it's fine, you know, it works. But sometimes when you're using CarPlay, this doesn't appear, so you turn the knob and it does adjust the heater, it does adjust the fan, but it doesn't show you the status. Again, it's just fairly primitive, poor software. And I don't mean this to be just a massive slating session, because I know there's a lot of you that are really, really happy with your cars, and I'm really happy with this as well. I think for the amount of money it cost and the performance it provides, I am happy with it. But I think if MG want to be taken seriously, we need to hire some software engineers that can build infotainment systems that don't look like those dodgy, crappy head units that you can buy on eBay. I mean, I think that's fairly fair, isn't it? You know, it for a £20,000 car, it's pretty rubbish. For a £20,000 EV, maybe it's all right. But I guess you get exactly the same system if you buy a petrol-engined MGZS, which I think in terms of value for money, they're a bit lesser appealing. But hey ho. And this is where you also set up some stuff like the comfort and convenience, speed information warning, speed assistance, lane assistance. I had to turn off the lane assist warning because in its default setting, it warns you that you're about to depart your lane by bonging at you, and it does that. It doesn't. It's not like other systems that actually try and keep you in the lane. Also, we do have that as an option. It was just an alert, just a warning, and then its default setting, it just warns constantly that you're near the line. You can be nowhere near the white line, but it bongs at you because it thinks you're going towards it. And it's just crap. Definitely keep that turned off. The vast majority of the other stuff, you know, the only other feature that I also turned off is the auto high beam because I found it crap. I found it very sensitive. Everything else is on. All the other sort of safety and assistance stuff is all turned on. MG Pilot, which is the sort of semi-autonomous driving stuff, use it quite a lot. But yeah, I don't know why it makes this noise every time you... Again, we've definitely got a system designed by the same people that make knockoff head units. But anyway, that's a quick look at the infotainment system. Not a fan. On a more positive note, in terms of range, charging and stuff, this car has the most, well, it has all the software updates that these cars have had up until around August time. So I bought this car in September. So that means it charges on AC with the doors unlocked. It's got the Comfort 2 updates. It doesn't have all the bongs. It's got the range on the dash. It's got the temperature on the infotainment display. And actually, it seems to be pretty good. It seems to be pretty well behaved. I've noticed that some people are reporting that the update that was issued in October has meant that the battery's not managing itself properly, and they're seeing reduced range and stuff. Happy to report that I'm not affected by that. On a full charge, I'm showing 454 volts. I have noticed the battery balancing takes a long time, and apparently that's an idiosyncrasy of the August update that MG are working on sorting out, and I think trying to fix that has led to the issues that some people are seeing if they've got the very latest software. We'll see what happens with that. I'm guessing they'll release an update to sort that out, but on the whole, fairly happy. Charge at home when I need to most of the time. I use an Omi smart charger, which links in with Octopus Go. I use Octopus for my home energy supply, and Octopus Go is a tariff where for 4 hours every night you can charge at 5 pence per kilowatt hour. So in this car that would equate to you're just over 1.5 pence per mile, so it's about as cheap as motoring can possibly get. So I basically plug it in. The charger takes care of the fact that it knows when the cheap window is, and it'll only charge the car during those times because I've got the app set up to do that. I think it's great. It's very easy. If you're interested in learning more about Octopus Energy and Octopus Go, and perhaps switching to take advantage of that tariff, which is perfect if you've got an electric car, there's a referral link in the description. If you do use that, you'll get £50 credit on your first bill, and I'll get £50 credit as well, which will obviously help keep me on the road, keep the wheels turning. So that would be much appreciated if you are thinking of switching anyway. Do use that link that's in the description. So yeah, I charge at home most of the time. I do occasionally use the odd rapid charger now and again, as you've seen from my other videos. Sometimes charge at Instavolt or Osprey, and I'm trying to document that for you when I do. I did use a PodPoint rapid charger in Cheltenham the other day. Unfortunately didn't manage to film because it was snowing and it was dark and it was horrible, so didn't manage to capture much of that. I was charging on that at just under 30 kilowatts with it was cold. It was it was at 1 degree. It was snowing. It was horrible. The battery was stone cold because I just finished work and gone a mile to this Tesco car park to plug the car in. It wasn't exactly ideal charging conditions at all. We were seeing sort of 20, 60, 30 kilowatt, which falls a bit short of the rapid charging performance that we expect, but certainly pretty good for the cold weather, I believe. So fairly happy with that. I do wish I'd managed to capture PodPoint because the rapid itself, it was good. It was easy to use. I'll maybe return there and shoot a future video, because I think it'd be good to show you what the experience is like at all the different rapid charging networks as I encounter them. But obviously, because I've got a fairly decent home charging setup, I don't actually need to use them that often unless I'm either on a longer journey or I've not bothered to plug in and I'm running a bit short, which was why I ended up using the PodPoint the other day. Overall, I think EV ownership, and I think this car in particular, it's treating me well. I do love the practicality of it, the fact it's a little bit bigger than our other car, which is a BMW i3. I absolutely love the i3, and I will bring you some content around the i3 at some point and show you my thoughts and give you a closer look at it. But the i3 is brilliant, but it's small. It's got a tiny little boot, and you do struggle to use it for some more practical stuff. Yes, I've seen people, they fold the back seats down and put a pallet in there, and it can do it, but in terms of just being able to chuck slightly bigger things in the boot and go, apart from the fact your parcel shelf might fall off and break, the practicality of this car definitely makes it stand out from the competition, and I'm very, very happy with it so far. So there we are. I mean, I don't know, a bit of a rant, I guess, about dodgy parcel shelf clips and crap infotainment systems, but I don't want you to get the wrong impression from this video. I am still very pleased with this car. I would still recommend one to everybody. I think you need to take a step back and think about what your expectation is. They are a little bit rough around the edges. There are going to be things that you're just kind of going to have to live with, but that's the trade-off you're going to make. If you want something that's absolutely perfect, polished, buy something like an e-Niro, or dare I say it, a Tesla Model 3, although I don't know, with some of the build quality things that you hear about, maybe that's not the right choice. But the e-Niro or the Kona, probably where you want to be, if you can spare the extra 10, 15 grand. If you're happy enough to save the money like I was, and you can live with little idiosyncrasies of MG and the fact it's not the most polished product, I still think go ahead, do it. But you don't think it's going to be this perfect package that's going to be polished and everything's going to work every time, and you're not going to get frustrated with some of the weird things it does, because that's not going to be the case. But overall, fairly happy. I will try to bring you some more updates. I mean, I dare say at some point it'll do something a little bit more interesting, and we can actually talk a bit more about what it's like to live with. But so far, as you'd expect, 3 months in, it's fairly plain sailing, and apart from the odd niggle, very happy. And apart from that, I think that's why this video has been fairly negative, because I've had to focus on the things that I'm not perfectly happy with. The things that wind me up a little bit, the things that you might want to think about if you want to buy one. And this is not about slagging them off and saying that they're crap and what have you. It's more about these are the things you need to be aware of if you're gonna commit to one of these, because it's the stuff you might not pick up on a quick test drive around the block, if you're even allowed to do that at the moment, which I don't think you are. There will be people ordering these cars without even seeing them, without test driving them. So you need to do as much research as you can and go in with your eyes open. So the last thing you want to do is be stuck with something that you're going to hate. But that's it for this video. Please let me know if there's anything in particular else you want to know about this car, anything you're curious about, and I'll try my best to give you as much information as possible. So I know that a lot of people find YouTube videos a valuable source of working out how things are. So let me know if there's anything I've missed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.